Hey everyone, it is Dr. Dylan Peckus here, and today I want to talk about two very important topics that have a lot of overlap. Okay, yes, I'm always talking about sleep here, um, a lot of sleep apnea, and depression being one of those things um, that we shouldn't just really shrug off. Okay, and this isn't, well, I mean, this episode is for the people who it's very obvious, right? Every single day, like, you wake up and you're asking yourself, like, what is the point? And every single thing that just happens is happening to you, right? And it just feels like nothing ever goes your way, and like, why do I even try? And that's just kind of the life you find yourself in, and not really having great thoughts about the future. Okay, but there's an even bigger issue underneath all of that, because that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's when, whether it's how someone expresses themselves or it's gone on too long, that's where it ultimately ends up. Honestly, the bigger problem with depression, if you will, and I'm using air quotes because it's not so much about seeing a doctor, seeing a psychiatrist, psychologist, whoever it may be, and then whipping out, the DSM-5 or 4, because healthcare is very outdated all the time, and saying, "Oh, you match 5 of these 9 criteria. You have depression." Okay, but really, the bigger thing is you are depressed, if that makes sense. Because depression, yes, we put a diagnosis on it so that we can put you into an algorithm and, offer you SSRIs or other similar medications as a possible way out, or, maybe even some cognitive behavioral therapy. And don't get me wrong, it does help some people for some amount of time. But the bigger problem underneath the iceberg is it really is when you're just going through the motions of life. It's the apathy. It's waking up and like, okay, I guess I'm gonna go to work. Here's my wife. Here's my kids. Whatever. You're around people. Maybe you put on a smile. Maybe you're not as talkative. And as much as someone else isn't making a fuss about it, they feel that. They know that. Because this isn't how you always used to be. Even though you've been like this for a long time and you may start to accept this silent depression, if you will, this is the real killer. Because one, it's going to lead to just where every day feels impossible and completely falls apart. But also, two, when you get into the zone of apathy, you're dying while still alive. And many times feeling dead inside. You may not admit that or feel that way, but like, this is the time to do so. Okay. And, speak pretty strongly on this because, I mean, this is a lot what I went through, where many times, like, I just would not want to live. I would just not see the point and keep going. And, many times think about offing myself. All right. And you may not be at that point. And of course, if you are, always seek help from the appropriate services, whether that is, the suicide hotline or anything else. Okay. I don't want to sugarcoat anything. Does not mean you're weak if you reach out for help. It means you're strong. Okay. Now, in this episode, beyond that soapbox there, I just went on. I want to be able to help you understand why this happens. Okay, because trying to have a conversation like, well, maybe it's just depression, is like the most useless conversation you can have, just trying to pin a label on this. Okay, so when you're not sleeping well, I want to show you how that's obviously going to impact your mood, and also really demonstrate, how some things are going to fall short in attempting to fix that, and be able to give you some concrete things here to do today, tonight, whenever. Take action so that you can start to improve your sleep, improve your mood, and start to get the hope and that zest, and that energy, and that pep back in your step. Okay, so that was a long opening rant, and I don't apologize for that. If you don't like my opening rants, Control 4 will close out the window, or you can press X. All right, now with and we'll go with this. So when you're not sleeping well, okay, for any reason, okay, bad sleep can lead to a few things. All right. Number one, nervous system My lord, who taught me how to write? Nervous system overdrive. We'll just call it nervous overdrive. Doesn't necessarily mean overwhelm or anxiety. It just means your nervous system is hyperactive. Okay? And then the other component, well, I'll save that for next. Okay. So when you're in nervous system overdrive, okay, because when you're not sleeping well, you're gonna wake up many times, okay, especially if you have sleep apnea, right? Because every time you stop breathing, your body is going to a lighter stage of sleep. Because being awake isn't this on-off switch, okay? As much as our consciousness makes it appear that way, okay? You can be in deep sleep, you can be in light sleep, okay? But are you awake? Okay, well, you're more awake in light sleep. So think of it like a spectrum, if you will. So we'll make this one down here. This is deep sleep. Up here is light sleep, L, D, okay? And then even above that is going to be like a conscious. You're consciously awake, okay? Anytime should be in deep sleep or asleep, and you're going up into light and even being consciously awake, that is going to turn your nervous system into it's called a high beta state, okay? It's going to be in beta state. Here's a beta, okay? Whereas as you get closer towards sort of deep sleep here, this is when we want to be trending towards delta, okay? And these represent your brain waves and how fast they're going, okay? Beta and delta. And the more time you spend in delta, the more chilled out your nervous system is. Able to recalibrate, relax, all that. If it's in beta, it's like running wild, okay? The more time you spend in light sleep or being awake in the middle of the night, that's going to put you in beta. More time in deep sleep, more time in delta, okay? More time in beta, nervous system is in overdrive, okay? This makes you more reactive, okay? In any which way. So let's say if you're someone you tend towards frustration, you're going to be more irritable. Things are not going to go your way magically because your emotional state. Maybe you're someone who trends towards overwhelm. It's going to bring you there. But what we're talking about today is depression. And the reason this picks up a lot of steam, because when you're overreactive all the time, you're not feeling well, things get harder. And then literally like depression, okay, or just feeling down, whatever you want to call it, having a sense of defeat in your bones, seeing no point in your actions. That is because you have a constant mismatch of your perceived reality and your outlook on it and how your body is able to handle things. If you can't handle things all the time, then your interpretation of the reality in front of you is that life is too hard. This is not worth it. I have nothing to look forward to. And that's why in very severe states of depression, the idea of I have nothing to look forward to, why even be here anymore? Maybe there'll be less suffering, I'm not here. That's how that comes in. It comes in from this like daily defeat because you have limited capacity and you're reactive to things. Because think about the times in your life you've slept well, or you have a good night every now and then, right? You feel like you can take on the day. You have capacity. Things are more doable. You're able to set goals and achieve them because you're steady. But when you're reactive and volatile and all over the place, whether it's going all over the place in anxiety, all over the place in just feeling defeated and down, or in a sneaky way, into a state of apathy, like I mentioned again, where you don't care. Because at a certain point, constantly feeling like nothing you do gets you anywhere and it's a constant grind all the frickin' time, a protective mechanism of your psyche will just to not give a crap anymore. Because you can't fail if you don't care. Okay? Or if you just kind of settle for less, settle for just being there, because being present around people, joyful, laughing, engaged in conversation, you can't do it. And again, becomes another thing you fall short on. So we default to mode where we just don't care as a protective mechanism. That's apathy from this overdrive state. Okay? Now, that's going to drive you towards these bad emotional states. Now, the other thing that's going to make this even worse. Because again, think of it like the overdrive literally puts you into a bigger overdrive state. Now, that's not a problem by itself, okay? Because think of like a race car, if you will. You drive it really fast, but what does it do? Or I guess what gets done to it? Comes into the pit crew, you repair it, and all this repair that goes on, right? Repair and maintenance. Okay, this is thing number 2 in this very abstract diagram here. I should just give it full space it needs. Repair. Okay. So put number 2 here. So repair. At night, your brain's job is to rebuild all the neurotransmitters for the day ahead. All right? Dopamine, serotonin. And it may not directly, this is a geek alert, it may not directly lead to the production of these, but it's going to prepare your body to make it more in the day. Okay? And we'll put norepinephrine. Okay. And the reason I have it written like this is because there's norepinephrine and then there's just epinephrine. So I'll put the dash there to signify. These are your feel-good compounds. Okay? Dopamine. Wow, rewarding. I can pay attention. This is great. Serotonin. Oh, I'm reacting in a good, healthy way. I have a good outset and onlook. Norepinephrine, epinephrine. I get excited. I'm joyful. I'm attentive. Okay? That's what those hormones would say if they were people who share too much about themselves when they just met you. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Now, or if you don't, that's fine too. And so when you don't sleep, you don't get any of these. You don't. Okay, yes, you get some, otherwise you'd be brain dead, but you get a greatly reduced amount of these. You're not making as much. And this is why when we think about, well, what happens to people who can't sleep, get depressed? Well, they don't find things rewarding. They don't have any dopamine, right? Nothing's rewarding. And then also some overlap, some bonus points. Maybe this is why you can't concentrate as well or have ADHD. Look at that. Okay, serotonin. Well, you don't have this. You're just going to default to being sad and very emotionally fragile. I'll just say it as it is. Epinephrine, you're not getting excited. You're just very dull, apathetic all the time. So what do we do to try to make up for this? Okay, well, I mean, there's a lot of things, right? You may have some coping mechanisms. Just put cope here. Hey, this is where you're watching, TikToks, Instagram, basically a little dopamine hits, okay? You know, the shorts, the reels, all that. That is like the modern day, I'm just going to say it. Those are like the modern day cigarette for your brain. Just dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit. That's what that is, okay? Same thing for serotonin. If you realize, like the category of this content here, it's like, oh, catch your attention, teach you something, reward you in 45 seconds. Great. Also, sometimes they'll just try to make you feel good. Here's some dogs doing some cute things. Here's some acts of kindness. You see like the random sketches where like someone walks up to like a homeless person, gives them a sandwich and $50. Why do they have to film that? Because they want to hit your serotonin. Okay, or then the next content, I might be revealing too much of what I spend my time on, but norepinephrine is like, oh my God, this is so exciting. This is cool. What's something I saw recently? Red Bull person jumping off like a flying squirrel. You know, the kind of suits they wear. Those are going to be things that happen, whether it's technology, but also, let's say food can also give you all of this. Drugs, alcohol, okay? These will all get you there, okay? Or hit those hormones, or those really neuropeptides, neurotransmitters. But also, then we'll medicate, okay? And this is where, SSRIs come in, NRIs, okay? We don't need to turn this to a pharmacology class, but this is also how those medications help out with that, okay? So, kind of zooming out here, this is why, like, if you don't fix the sleep problem, then you'll be using too many of these neurotransmitters and you won't be repairing and repleting your stores of them. And this will lead you to where, yes, you're sad, but it's like calling it depression is like kind of a useless thing because you can go to therapy, you can do all those things. Okay? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying any of that is wrong or not helpful. I'm just saying it is. I mean, it's like when like remember in the Gulf of Mexico when the big oil rig exploded, like Exxon or whatever, and then there was oil leaking out. Like these things are just cleaning oil out of the ocean. Where the explosion, we need to like, bring a robot down to it and like seal it off. Okay? Because again, like these things, they'll help out for a little bit, right? Therapy, positive thinking, all of that. But then the danger becomes thinking that's okay. Because when we're super low energy, when we're super low defeated, our bar of what we want in our life is so ridiculously low. Because like when I think back, or maybe this was you in the past, it's hard to realize this like when you're in it. But like if you look back and like just think about how a depressed person thinks, okay? If you're able to separate yourself from that, it's just like it is just like so sad to which like how someone lowers the standards of their life. Maybe, there's other people worse than me. I don't, it's okay if I don't do that. I don't deserve this. Okay? That's all. It may feel 110% true in that moment where everything feels impossible. But the frickin' truth is, you deserve to be able to have a life that is lighting up your dopamine, serotonin, and all these different things naturally. Be able to have a life where like you feel accomplished. You're doing things. You are on purpose. You feel like every single day has meaning and you're able to connect and laugh and be enjoyed with the people around you. That's the minimum. That needs to be the minimum. Because anything less becomes a slippery slope. Okay? So it's a decision, because before we get into some strategies here for you, it's a decision to not, just kind of clean up the oil spill, but to really get down in there. And yeah, it's going to be more work. Sending down a robot to like an oil pipe is arguably more complex than just taking oil off of the surface of the ocean. Both sound very hard now that I'm thinking about it and talking about it out loud. But you need to make the decision to really get into action, which can be very hard when you're very low and down, but just taking baby steps. Okay, so let's talk about some of those here. So first things first, we need to talk about addressing the root issue, but also that's going to take time, okay? As fast as we help people get to a place where they're breathing better at night, they're sleeping better, they're all these great things, as fast as that happens in like a time scale of months, we're up against the background of years of this going on. Because if you've had sleep issues for a year, or maybe two, guess what? Your health has been falling apart for years before that. Okay? All that is to say, you don't have to wait 4 years to feel better. We're going to talk about one major thing to kind of start to help cut out the nervous system overdrive. All right? And then we're going to talk about some things like, okay, well, as these mechanisms are repairing underneath, what the heck can I do in the meantime? Okay, so let's do that, shall we? All right, so this is the core slow burner. All right. Okay, so with this slow burner here, this is going to be, again, we want to all bring down this nervous system overdrive at night. Okay, so especially if you have sleep issues, okay, and issues with breathing at night. One thing that's going to be really important called rectangle breathing. Oops. At night, okay? As you lay down tonight, what you're going to do is just 5 count inhale, 10 count pause, 5 count exhale, 10 count pause, okay? If the pause is too hard, just reduce it. You can go like 5, 5. Oh, that's the same rectangle. 5, 5, and 5. That's all right. Drawing shapes was never my strong suit. Okay, whichever works out, rectangle or square breathing, that is going to bring down the nervous system overdrive directly, because this also will help reduce and be like kind of calm you down. Okay, but also it'll correct your breathing in a way that allows you to have more deep restful sleep, so that you're not having this constant freak out of like waking yourself up and getting into light sleep and beta state and all that. Okay, so doing this at least 10 minutes, okay, is going to be critical. All right. Super, super important, because then that will start to help correct the breathing. That will then help your sleep and all those different pieces. Now, this is a starting point again. And the way you progress this is, I mean, you kind of could have gotten the hint there a little bit. The longer you make this pause, the more you're able to improve your breathing, slow it down, calm yourself down, and cut out the nervous system overdrive component there. Now, some other things that I just like to give. You're doing that. Another huge key point, okay? Going to be Allen. Do the hex stats. Artificial light at night, okay? We don't want that. This is going to hurt your sleep quality. It's also going to put your nervous system in overdrive before you even go to bed, okay? So about 2 hours before bed, however you got to do it, okay? Lights off, blue blockers, only reading, like whatever the heck it is you got to do. Screens off. To reduce artificial light at night, this is going to pay dividends for your sleep quality, okay? Because this will help shift you, again, into these deeper delta states, bring down the nervous system overdrive, okay? Now, on top of that, so those are just a few things, and obviously there's going to be a lot more. That's just a general baseline. Is that going to be the most important thing for you? I don't know. This is a one-way communication for the most part. I mean, you can always comment below, but I mean, it doesn't really substitute a visit. Now, when you do get into these places where you're feeling down, okay, and I want to put quotations around depressed because, again, especially men, I'm going to throw us all under the bus. We're like, oh, I'm not depressed, but man, I don't really care about, anything. I'm just kind of grinding through life. Okay, great. That's still not what we want. So you want to think of how you feel. You want to think about your feelings. And I hope you can appreciate my sense of humor, because I was very serious about this about 20 minutes ago. 23 minutes ago in this 10-minute episode. I don't think I'll ever hit 10 minutes per episode. So you want to break up how you feel into sort of 2 time scales, or I guess emotional qualities. Negative to neutral, okay, to 0. 0 to positive. Okay. And the reason this is important to deal with your emotions and feelings is because when you're in a bad emotional state, that is going to directly impact your physiology. That's why depressed, if you Google a depressed person, what are they going to look like? Very like hunched over, very low, very down, low energy. It's just going to not be good. So your emotional state impacts your physiology, okay? And it's going to also impact your sleep. This is why one of the things we look for in, say, an initial survey about depression is, how is your sleep quality? Okay. Now, whenever you're feeling even just like apathetic, okay? Actually, let me back up here. And the opposite is true. The better your emotional state is, the better your health is physiologically. Okay? It just is. So if you're like stuck grinding, you're like kind of grinding, which is like just below neutral, negative, that's going to affect your physiology every single flippin' day. Okay? So think about a time, maybe today, where you felt low. This also works for all emotions, like frustrated, whatever it may be. And then you then want to think to yourself, okay, where was I? You can even think of this as like a scale of -5 to 5. 5 being like you want to jump your heels for joy. -5 is like you don't want to get out of bed. Okay. And first, you want to work on getting to neutral. Okay, because when you're in -5, the idea of being happy is just seems stupid and impossible. Okay, because what did I say earlier? The harder things seem, more low capacity, it perpetuates this cycle of being down. Okay, so -5 to 0. That's what we first want to do. And a lot of this actually is going to come from just pausing for a moment and just acknowledging what you feel. Okay, acknowledging what you feel, where you feel it, and accepting it in a way. Being okay with this emotion. Now, we're not going to be okay with it. Okay, this is a little zen here, but we want to accept the emotion ever so slightly. Okay, like, I just feel really sad and down. I feel it like in my chest. Okay, and you just want to focus on it and really listen to it, because the depression lingers, or whatever feeling lingers, when you ignore it, when you try to work through it, when you try to push through it. It just stays on there. Okay, so give it your full attention. Okay, just fully sink into it. Okay, and as this happens, you will gradually shift into a neutral. Okay, it will just happen. Let it happen. Okay, and then as you're starting to feel it shift, okay, that's something you can do from like -1. Then you start want to think like, okay, what am I grateful for today? Okay, and with gratitude, I know a lot of people are like, think of the 27 things you love the most and write it on a crane and send it out into the water. How you use gratitude depends on your emotional state. Because if you're lower, you may want to write things that, do kind of seem ridiculous. Like, I haven't been captured by Somali pirates today. No one's shooting at me. I like things that do sound stupid, but like it only sounds stupid because like if you're in a modern world, like that's just a given, right? And the more you can shift into like, I have running water, my fridge works, my car works, all my family members are fine today, and then just really build up from there in small ways, starts to shift you up here, okay, just a little bit, because these actions by themselves will generate and restore those neurotransmitters during the day as your sleep is still repairing, okay? So those are the, just two things, or I guess I gave you three things by accident, oops, for you to start playing with in your journey, because there's a whole lot to this here. And now that you understand a lot more of the, being able to tackle this head on, not just be like, just my mood. No, this is a serious thing that you want to be able to improve, because as you're feeling better, the quality of your life greatly expands. Now, for those who really want to be able to, just fix everything as quickly as possible and confidently as possible, then what you can do is go to ochnow.com/talk. All right. And that's where we just link up 45 minutes, talk about what's going on with you, talk about your goals. And if we can help you accomplish those goals, then we can talk about how we can help you, what services we can provide so that you're able to get into a space where you're just back to your best. Bottom line, okay? You're sleeping well, you're thriving, you're energetic, you're striving towards your goals, and really just back to the old you, and even better, okay? So if that's what you must have, and I say must have very clearly, not like it'd be nice, I don't know, whatever. Like, no, you must have that. So if that's you, go to ochnow.com/talk. Now, if you're someone who maybe your first video, whatever, what have you, we have our book in the description. All right, just more condensed starter kit, if you will, of the most important things you can do by yourself without having that hands-on individual support that we would have with working directly. Okay, so there you go. Thanks for watching, and as I promised, my 10-minute video has finished up at 10 minutes 3 times for 30 minutes. All right, have a good one.